Did you?
I didn't film the handshaking. If you guys want to do that
What were
again.
we supposed to?
Starting now. Alright, so I'm the liberal moderator, and my name is Cheston Hussain.
I'm Chelsea Coulon, and I'm the moderator.
Alright, and so the first question will be, and this is for all the candidates, from recent polls, 52% of the public is in favor of stricter gun control laws. What is your stance on the issue of gun control, and if you were elected, what, if anything, would you change? And I think we'll start with candidate Sue Gore.
Alright. I unequivocally support the Second Amendment, and I support the rights of all Americans to carry guns and assault weapons. But we need universal background checks on gun shows, on internet sales, and anywhere that you can buy a gun so that we can have a national registry of who gets a gun and so that they don't fall into the wrong hands.
And then we'll go with Pat Carr.
I believe that guns is something that we are guaranteed by the Constitution, and proposed regulation only for those with mental handicapness or previous criminal backgrounds.
I also support the Second Amendment to its full extent. I believe that, if anything, that we need stricter background checks to keep guns out of the mentally unstable. Other than that, I fully support the Second Amendment.
Alright, next question.
National debt is at an all-time high. How do you plan to fix this? And this is for all candidates. And we'll start with Zugor.
Alright. Right now, our national debt is very high, that is true. But we can't just have one approach. We can't just say cut spending or raise taxes, because that is going to hurt the economy, and in the long run, that's going to do more damage to the national debt than any measures we take right now. So what we need is a balanced approach, one that involves a tax reform, and also one that involves cutting wasteful spending only. Entitlement reform is something that I really do support, including making sure that Social Security and Medicare don't bankrupt this country because of the baby boom generation. That involves limits such as using perhaps other ways of calculating inflation, such as the chain CPI. It involves perhaps raising the retirement age, and also it involves, like I said, tax reform. My tax reform policy is simple. Right now the tax code is complicated, so we need to have 3 tax brackets, 15, 25, and 35%. We need to make sure that standard deductions are increased so that the middle class shoulders less of a burden. We need to make sure that we reward companies that bring jobs back to the United States, and that involves giving tax deductions to companies that decide to invest their profits back in the United States. And last but not least, we need to cut administrative costs, which means the IRS needs to stop wasting money on the tax returns, and we need to use the technology we have like internet and computers to make sure that that we're making easy files and giving consumers exactly what they need in terms of the information about tax returns.
I support the fact that government should spend, but only during times of great economic boost. Also, the tax brackets, I propose to keep it the same, because I'm pretty sure that the middle class and the upper class give the greatest amount of share and their fair share of the national income. And also, during times of economic downtimes, such as recessions or depressions, the government should only spend enough to take us out of the economic downturns, but not so much that our debt gets increased. So during economical upturns, we will reduce the amount of spending such that we would have a balanced budget.
You know, theoretically, the debt is not something we can get out of tomorrow with one approach. So my fundamental approach to lowering the debt is A, we need to reduce spending, and B, we need to broaden the tax base. So what I support is cutting, absurd, needless, inefficient government programs. All they do is spend tax money and, create a larger debt. I also support the Purple Tax Plan, which is a revision of the fair tax. It's a bipartisan approach. What it does is it's a 17.9% nominal sales tax. And what it does is everyone's paying the same amount, and to adjust for lower income families, because that would obviously be a regressive tax, to make it a progressive tax, what it would do is it would give DEMA grants to lower income families based upon their family composition, income, stuff like that. So it would be a progressive tax that's fair to everyone while broadening the tax base.
Do I have an opportunity to rebut that argument?
Yes, you do.
All right. Here's the problem with the purple tax.
Okay.
I've done extensive research over the past 2 weeks, and I found that the purple tax, they say that it's a compromise between red and blue. They say that it caters to both the Democrats and Republicans, but what we find is that there's a lot of Democrats and Republicans both that don't support it for this reason. You're shifting the tax from income tax to a tax on consumption.
Mm-hmm.
So a tax on consumption, a sales tax, is inherently a regressive tax.
Right.
What it does, it discourages spending. And you say you're going to make it progressive by giving demogrants to the poor, and I support that. That's a great initiative on your part. But you're forgetting about the middle class. You're forgetting the burden it'll place on the middle class to make up for the fact that you'll be getting less from the wealthier classes. And you're also forgetting the fact that as a percentage of income, middle class Americans spend more money because they have a greater marginal propensity to consume than any other classes, especially the wealthy, because a large portion of their income goes to goods and services. And when you tax that, it discourages their spending, because every time they go out, every time they want to spend $1 on a product, they're going to be thinking, oh my goodness, the government's going to take 15 cents of that dollar, and that's going to add to the sales tax that's already imposed by states. So yes, you're helping the poor by giving them the demogrants, but for the rest of America, for the middle class, for the wealthy, it's a regressive tax, and we can't be the only first world country to have a regressive tax. That's a huge burden on the middle class.
Well, here's the thing. It's not, the demogrants don't solely go to the lower class. Demogrants are based on family composition. Everyone in the middle and lower class would get a demogrant. It just, the amount would vary depending on income and family composition. Also, the first $40,000 of the FICA payroll tax would be exempted. That's something else to make it less regressive and make it more progressive.
You're admitting that it's a regressive tax, but you're just having
Well, the
ways
fair
to
tax-
make it less regressive.
The fair tax in nature is a regressive tax, but this is making it a progressive tax. It's a revision of the fair tax. It's not the fair tax by itself.
Once again, you're exempting a large portion of the middle class that our economy thrives on. The middle class is what brought us where we are, and we can't
Right.
make a regressive tax on them. And yes, you can give demogrants, but you said that would broaden the tax base, but that wouldn't broaden the tax base when you take taxes and then give it back.
Right, but what it's doing is it's closing loopholes. It's fair for
I agree
everybody.
with that. I agree with
I mean,
that.
that's the biggest problem we have right now. Is there's too many loopholes.
Yes.
And it's just a standard tax for everybody is the only way that no one can say they're being specifically targeted. This does not target the middle class. It's completely fair to the middle class.
All right, and with that, I think we'll wrap up this question. All right, the next question, and I think we'll start with candidate Crawford this time.
Yes.
Employment is now a major concern for the public, even more so for those pursuing a higher education. What can you tell our audience here today that would reassure them of their ability to financially support themselves during and after college?
Okay. Clearly education costs are on the rise because the demand for higher education is also on the rise. I mean, it's simple supply and demand economics. But the problem here is as these education costs are on the rise, student loan rates are also on the rise because Congress can't agree on a simple solution. Now, recently, Congress came to an agreement on a solution, but while that works for the present, it hurts students in the future. And the rates are going to go above the 6.9% that they were trying to avoid. And so what I think we need to do is we need to privatize student loans. I think that's the most fair solution to everybody.
I believe that tuition, yes, is on a very high upscale turn, and many people are not being able to afford that. But it shouldn't be such that most of the scholarships that students receive these days that cut down the tuition are need-based, and yes, that's very true. We should help those that don't have the money. But also those that have academic rigor, that have all this desire to learn too, they're not getting that many opportunities for merit-based scholarships. What I propose is to promote merit-based scholarships and governments to provide subsidies to public schools to lower their tuition rates so everyone can get in.
Can I respond to that? The problem with completely subsidized government programs is they always leave bubbles. And a student loan bubble is coming, and it's coming soon unless something's done about it. So that's my only problem with that.
The subsidy, I'm only proposing to do it such that the tuition level will go down to what we want, and after it's to a socially accepted level, then I would get rid of the subsidy in order for the private industry to restart their process.
I agree with Mr. Crawford on this measure, and Mr. Katkar's plan will reinflate a bubble, so much like we saw with our housing crisis. And bubbles are essentially what propagate our recessions, that make our recessions bigger, and we can't have that anymore. So I agree with Mr. Crawford on this issue, but I disagree with Mr. Katkar and that we should have extensive subsidies.
Alright. And then we'll have the next question.
Our national standardized test scores are falling behind other countries. What will you do to improve the education of our children? And we'll start in with Mr. Crawford.
Okay. First of all, No Child Left Behind needs to be repealed. It's frivolous. All it does is it encourages schools to pass along students who don't have the requisite knowledge to go to the next level. And so I also would eliminate any Race to the Top programs, because what Race to the Top programs do is they leave behind the districts that need the most funding. And so what I would do is I would fund all districts equally, and then I would give extra funding to lower income districts or districts that they just need the funding to get by, to improve their systems.
I completely support that, in that we should fund the low income districts as more than the middle and upper regions. But what I also propose is that each district have a separate curriculum starting from K up to 12, where those students that show this progress and this interest in it get put into special classes where they can build their knowledge, where they can go above and beyond the average. Of course, the average kids would go through the normal pathway, and those that are struggling would have their own sector of education where they can build up their knowledge and their desire to learn as the same level as the average students. That way, all the students will get at least average by the time they start the standardized tests such as the SAT.
Education needs a complete revolution in this country, because every other country is rewarding their teachers, they're incentivizing their teachers, and we're failing to do that on a across-the-board level. So the first thing we need to do is reform No Child Left Behind, such that kids don't go to school to learn how to bubble in answers on tests. We need greater variety of assessments. For example, in science class, instead of taking the multiple choice tests, you design an experiment, or in an art class, you're given an empty canvas. We can't have these same multiple choice tests over and over again that punish education more than help it. Secondly, we need to make sure that we reward teachers, and that means we need to make teaching not a job but a profession that you can advance in, a profession that you can develop, where you can gain higher access to higher level positions, so that it incentivizes teachers to work harder in teaching their students, because they know that they can advance in their careers, they have a security and a safety net. We need to make sure that heavily invest in early childhood education. All research shows that for every dollar that we invest in early childhood education, like universal pre-K, we get a $7 to $8 return later on, because we'll have less special needs attention that we have to pay attention to. We have more employment, we have less crime. So, like I said, $1 returns $6 to $7. And that is a profound impact on our economy for the future. And like I said, it'll sustain the middle class more.
Mr. Suguru, how would you plan to evaluate the teachers and the progress of their students? Because wouldn't any such system be inherently biased?
How would any such system be inherently biased?
Well, because think about it. Would a teacher such as Ms. Stewart, who has higher level kids, like, we have number 1, 2, 3, and multiple people tied for 3 in our class, in this classroom. Another AP government class, although there isn't one, but another AP government class could possibly not have the same level of students, and not students that don't have the same level of intelligence. So how would you compare apples and oranges per se?
Variety of assessments. We need a variety of assessments that, we standardize assessments, which I agree with, but the variety is lacking in that we have one assessment for everybody, and that we can easily combat that with a variety of different assessments.
Okay. And I think we'll end that question for now. Alright, next question. And I think we'll start this time with Car, and then Crawford, and then Sewer. And then, from surveys that were recently taken, 67% of the public supports the recognition of same-sex marriage as equal to traditional marriage. Do you support or oppose this notion? And what policies, if any, would you pursue if elected?
Well, first of all, it is not my duty to say whether one thing is right or wrong. That is up to the society to decide whether homosexual marriage is the same as heterosexual marriage. That is up to the states to decide, and up to the people of those states whether they want to accept them or not. If the entire public, if all 50 states do agree that it's the same, then that's great. Then everyone has the same everyone has the same access after marriage. But what if there are some states that are still very traditional and may take some time to adapt to non-traditional marriage? Those states should be given that opportunity to keep their laws, but still, in the certain future, change to a non-traditional marriage also.
Hey, Crawford. In 1948, there was a United States Supreme Court case, Scherer v. Scherer, and in it they ruled that family and marital matters should be left up to the states. I agree with this completely. There are some states that are very obviously ready for same-sex marriage, such as Colorado, but there are other states that are very clearly are not ready for it, and the people there just do not support it. So, like Alabama. So leave it on a state-to-state basis, and I believe by doing so, it could pick up momentum, and eventually, if all the states, agree to pass it, the homosexual couples will get what they really want, which is just equality. And if every state passes it on their own, they'll be truly accepted, and that's what they really want.
How can we stand by and let these people not have civil liberties and say it's up to the states when there are states denying them these rights? For example, civil unions. A lot of people are misinformed about civil unions. They think that they get the same benefits as married couples, but they don't. So, according to the General Accounting Office, civil unions are denied about 1,049 rights that are given to heterosexual couples. And how can we stand by and watch states do this when poll after poll shows majority of Americans now support homosexual marriage? We can't let this minority who oppose it stop us from advancing the civil liberties for these for homosexuals. And we think it's been proven that it's not a choice. This is something they're born with, and we can't deny them these rights to marriage because of something that we believe, something that's in our religion. When we're naturally a country that separates church and state, so we can't enforce our beliefs on these other people and deny them the right to marry.
Can I rebut that?
Alright, I think we will have to end the question here. I think from now on, since we're running really low on time, I don't think we'll have rebuttals. I think what we'll have to do is, you can rebut people that have already gone before you. And so if you're last, that means you can rebut either of the
Can I
candidates.
make one last statement on homosexual marriage?
Alright.
Oh wait, hold on. But Cat Car asked first.
Okay.
Yeah, I did.
I really think we need to go on to the next question. So.
Let me make one final statement. Kim Kardashian and Kanye West have done more to damage the institution of marriage than any loving gay couple can ever do. Okay?
I'm afraid, Mr. Yash, we are not talking about
Alright,
pop
alright.
culture. We are talking about the real life.
Okay, I think we're getting a little off topic here. Let's move on to the next question.
82% of voters want at least some restriction on abortion. What is your stance on abortion? Let's start with Crawford.
Okay. I believe that abortion should be allowed in cases of incest and rape, or potentially life-threatening, situations for the mother, and also within the first trimester. I believe that this is the most fair solution to everybody. It's in the middle. It gives a degree of choice where it's needed, but it's not like you can just abort a baby because, you decide you wanted to have unprotected sex and had a child. That can be equivocated to murder. Because a child, as soon as it has a life beat, or has a heartbeat, is considered alive.
Well, I agree completely. Second and third trimester abortion is the equivalent of murder. I don't think there is any other I don't think there are many religions or other beliefs that believe that a baby isn't developed by then. But for the first trimester, that is something that, again, is up to people, whether they want to decide that. Now, of course, I do not support of course there should be available abortion for those that get raped or are forced to have this kind of stuff. But one of the biggest problems and one of the reasons why people are so active about abortion is because of the federal grants for abortions. Now, anyone can get this. If you're a 25-year-old couple and you don't want a baby but you accidentally had one, the government will just give you the money to have the abortion. It's not the government. The government shouldn't be deciding what we do with our lives. That's something that you have done, that is your responsibility, and you have to take care of it on your own. Of course, that is only in the first trimester.
You just contradicted yourself.
Yeah, I was about to say.
You said the government should have no input, but yet you're restricting abortion. Look, it doesn't matter what Mr. Crawford thinks about when life begins. It doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what you think. All that matters is what the woman thinks, what she agrees with her doctor and her family. It's her right to choose, and the government can't interfere with that.
So if a
Alright.
woman decides
Vamos,
in
please.
First trimester.
Okay, in the first
And
trimester.
I only meant the
Okay.
government as in
Okay,
financial
guys.
aid. No.
Alright, next question. And we'll start with Sugur, and please try and keep in mind, like, we are technically, like, already over, and we still have, like, 3 or 4 questions left, so try and keep your answers as concise as possible. Recently, it has been found that 54% of the public supports the distribution of money and wealth towards the poor. What is your position on government programs such as welfare and the Affordable Care Act that seek to aid and give more opportunities to low-income individuals and their families? Yeah.
All right. It is unjust and unfair to suggest that the people on these programs are simply lazy or that they don't want to work when it's a small minority. See, you wouldn't like it if I took your guns away because some guy shot up a school. So we can't take away these programs because there are a few people that are abusing it. But what we do need to do is make sure that those people don't abuse it, but at the same time, these programs are a safety net that America has developed since the 1930s that ensures pathway to the middle class. For example, Facebook yesterday bought a $19 billion company, WhatsApp, and the owner instantly became a millionaire. About 10 to 20 years ago, he was on food stamps. Imagine if we didn't give him that opportunity to feed his family while he was unemployed, feed his family while he was searching for work and taking risks. And the United States has something that many countries don't, and it's a safety net, and we need to preserve that safety net.
Alright, Kakar?
I fully support welfare and help aid to the poor, but there are some people that can go off with their income. There's just I know many people actually. My mother has friends that are in the lower income, yet they still choose to buy these expensive cars and live in these big houses, and they use food stamps for this. I propose to have more regulated in the welfare thing. Those that are in dire situations that need our aid will get our aid completely. That way that once they get jobs, they can be on their own, and slowly the government will slow down the aid for them. And also, I think we should really invest on focusing the private industry into aiding the poor through charity work, because the private industry will make the biggest difference when it comes to aid to the poor.
Crawford?
I certainly know that not everyone on welfare is just lazy. However, I do believe that the current system allows, a prolonged period of time where you can be on welfare. So, Billy Graham once said, the success of welfare is not measured by how many people are on welfare, but how many people are no longer on welfare. And I believe that there needs to be, a revision to the system that, currently it helps people stay where they're at and be fine where they are, but something that helps move people along and get them to that next step. I believe that's what needs to be.
Is there time for rebuttal?
No, I don't think it. I don't really think there is a time for rebuttal. I think what we'll have to do is, since we are out of time, we're gonna have to wrap up the debate. But we will leave with a final message for each of our candidates, and I think we'll start with Sugur first, and then Kakar, and then Crawford.
5 years ago, we experienced the greatest recession since the Great Depression. And we're slowly making our way back. But there's more that we can do to make sure that the middle class thrives, because that is the backbone of the American economy. We need to focus our economic policy on consumer and demand side economics that'll make sure that people go out and they're not scared to spend their money. People have confidence that the economy can grow. That means reforming our tax code. That means advancing civil liberties for gays, women, minorities, and that means making sure that we reward companies that bring jobs back to the United States. That's the plan I have for America, and that is the progress that we can make with me as president.
I want to say that the government has been getting bigger and bigger ever since its inception at the beginning. There is a quote that is in our libertarian platform. It says, "We believe in the protection of personal liberties. Any law disallowing liberty is injustice and must be halted. The government's job is to aid people in their lives, not control it. What we need to do is all these extra stuff, gun control laws and extra funding of abortion, these kind of stuff by the government is adding to their input into our lives. That's something that we are supposed to be in control of. I think that the government should be not as controlling of our lives, but helping of our lives."
And we'll leave off with candidate Crawford.
You know, we have two fine candidates to my left, but I believe that they're being disingenuous. For example, Mr. Sigur has been acting like he's, fairly towards the middle, when in reality, that's not him. He's very smart, he's very intelligent, he has great ideas, but he's much more liberal than he's giving off. Mr. Katkar, do you notice how he's not speaking with his accent from his commercial? I mean, he's been trying to fool you into thinking that he's something that he wasn't this entire time. I'm just being me. I will truly work with both sides. I do not believe these other candidates will. I will get stuff done. And I think that, can you stop?
Okay, wrap up please.
His shirt says USA, but it was made in Honduras.
Alright.
USA.
Made in Honduras.
Alright, okay, I think we're finished with this debate here. And then we'll go moderator, Chelsea the same.
Yeah, where's your accent?
Chelsea Kuma.
See you later.